Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Live. I'm Shannon LaBruyere. I am live and loving it, and I want you to be loving it too. We are exploring the principles that equip us to thrive in change. In the midst of the changes that inevitably come our way, we can be not just reactive, but proactive, which is what we are going to be talking about tonight. So, welcome. If you are new to Sunday Night Live, be sure to introduce yourself. Jump in on the comments, say hi, let us know where you're watching from, and be sure to give StreamYard permission to use your image and your Facebook profile so that we can actually see who you are. And I encourage you, if you have an idea or something that occurs to you while we're exploring the topics that we're talking about tonight and other nights, drop those in the comments. What comes to mind for you also helps others, and it helps our conversation be rich. And we grow through these rich conversations. So I encourage you to share what you're learning and let us know what stirs in you as we explore the topics about dealing with change. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're not, but they all matter and you matter. And I'm glad you're here. So, welcome. Tonight's topic, tonight's Thrive Principle, falls under the category of hashtag trust the process. We are going to be, for the next few weeks, exploring Stephen R. Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And a habit is nothing more than a process. It, when the habits that we have are things that we do consistently over time and they yield results. So when we choose our habits well, like the habits we're going to be exploring, when we choose those habits well, we can expect results and we can expect good results when they're well chosen. So, oh, hi, Laura. And hi, Missy. I'm glad you're here. One other thing before we jump into tonight's topic is our sponsor. Excuse me, you guys, I have a frog in my throat. Let me see. Do I know how to mute this? I do not. We're just going to have to keep clearing until I figure it out. Thank you for your patience. All right. You guys know, if you are a regular Sunday Night Live viewer or a Thrive and Change podcast listener, you know that my favorite coffee is Thumb Roast coffee. I look forward to drinking it every morning, and I start anticipating that joy the night before. I go to bed looking forward to the morning, knowing that when I get up, I'm going to feel, I don't know, calm, settled. I'm going to enjoy my morning because I've got a cup of Thumb Roast coffee in my hand. It's something I look forward to. If you've never tried it, now's your chance. We're coming up on the holiday season. If you're a pumpkin spice fan, jump in, order yourself a bag or two of pumpkin spice, and use the coupon code THRIVE to get 15% off at the website. Yes, you can order coffee from a website and it will be fresher than the coffee you get on the shelf at your local grocery store. So go to thumbroastcoffee.com, choose your coffee, and then use the coupon code THRIVE, THRIVE, when you check out, and you will get 15% off. Woot, woot. Everybody loves a deal, right? Okay, so let's get started. We're talking about the 7 habits of highly effective people that Stephen Covey identified in his book, conveniently titled The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I highly recommend it. It is the book that really started my personal growth journey. And the principles that he outlines, the habits that he illustrates, have brought forth amazing fruit in my life. Amazing fruit. I can testify to the effectiveness of these habits. Do I always nail it? No. Do I always get it right? Not always. Have I always been consistent in all of these habits? No, because I'm human. But I will tell you that the pursuit of establishing these principles in my life as habits has created wonderful opportunities for me. It has definitely brought significant growth, and it will do so for you too. So I'm really excited to talk about them. We have never on Sunday Night Live talked about these habits. I've referenced them once in a while, but I've never just taken them one by one and kind of flesh them out. So let's go. Habit number one is be proactive. Be proactive. My mentor and friend, John Maxwell, says leaders are proactive. And when we are leading ourselves through change, we have to be proactive. Hey, Mary, I'm glad you're here live too. That's great. So many years ago, I was dissatisfied at work. I thought I was going to be happy. I thought I was going to be happy lifting heavy things um, and and driving a forklift. And the way I told myself, the way I made myself kind of comfortable with not using my gifts and my talents was I told myself that it felt good to not think, that it felt good to do what other people told me to do, that it just was made my life easier. But deep down inside, I knew that I was created to think. I was created to use my gifts and my talents. And so there was this season in my work life when I worked way back in the day. This was early when I had just hired in the first few years that I had hired in at the Postal Service. I found myself being very dissatisfied with just showing up and doing my job. And the result of my dissatisfaction were things that I'm not proud of. It allowed me to be inconsistent. My dissatisfaction with what I was doing sort of opened a door for me to be inconsistent in my attendance. It um, it opened a door for me to be lax sometimes in the quality of what I did because I felt like what I did didn't require much effort. I felt like anybody could do this. Um, these are not good things, you guys, and I'm not proud of them. These were character flaws, if you will. I was weak in character because I allowed that dissatisfaction to affect how I showed up. And I could have just as easily used the Thrive principle today, hashtag bring the honor. It took me a little bit of time, but this is what I came to learn was that I could not wait for my job to become more exciting. I couldn't wait for my circumstances at work to be more stimulating, more fulfilling, because I was going to be waiting until I retired. I could see the people around me, and you may have experienced this yourself where you're dissatisfied and you look around at the people around you and you realize they're not any more satisfied either. I don't want you to compare yourself to others. Comparison is the thief of joy. But sometimes they're a signal of what our future holds if we don't change our ways. And that's what happened to me. I looked at the people around me that had allowed their dissatisfaction with not being able to use their gifts, their talents, and their skills. They had allowed their dissatisfaction to affect their character. It affected how they showed up. And that was the path I had started to choose. And I was reacting to circumstances in my work that I was dissatisfied with. And I was allowing them to change me. And I routinely showed up, waiting to see what would happen, reacting to anything that came my way, and nothing was changing because I wasn't doing anything differently. So if you're taking notes, this is a good one to write down. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. Some of you are looking at your circumstances and saying, why isn't anything changing? Well, it's because you're not. Man, that one landed. I could feel it because you're not changing. One of the key habits that we can develop to become resilient, to be able to thrive in the midst of change, is to start being proactive about what we do. Oh, love that, Mary. Wow, she says. Philip, glad you're able to be here with us tonight. So, waiting for our circumstances to change is pretty much resigning ourselves to living a reactive life. What I had to start doing, what I have to continue to do, and what you have to continue to do is to begin choosing to be proactive, not reactive to your life and to your circumstances. Because what you do changes things. You guys may have heard of this theory or this, I guess we'll just use it, call it a theory of the butterfly effect, that a butterfly on one side of the planet flapping its wings can actually affect the weather on the other side of the planet. Think about what happens when you're intentionally choosing to do something and the ripple effect that it has across your day. When you decide I'm going to do something positive today, the ripple effect it has, not just on your life, but the life of the people that you serve in your job, the life of the people in your family, the life of the people at your church, your school, it makes a difference. And that difference is profound, even if you can't see it. Nothing changes until you change. Your circumstances are going to remain the same until you choose to do something differently. So I'm asking you, what do you need to do differently? Where in your life are you looking around wishing something would change? Are you wishing that your health was better? Well, what are you eating every day? Are you reacting to your bad health? Are you reacting to the easy choices that are in your path every day on your way to and from the fast food drive-throughs? I'm talking to myself here, you guys. The candy in the cupboard, are you reacting to those things, or are you proactively choosing what you want your health to be like? So often we feel like there's nothing we can do about our health. And yet, when we're not just reacting to the sore knee, when we're being proactive, what can I do to strengthen my body so that my knee doesn't hurt when I walk up the stairs? Again, speaking to myself, lots of things change. If we can develop a habit of looking for ways to be proactive in the spheres where we want change, we are going to yield so much better results. Action brings results. Waiting, reacting, it also creates results, but they're not the results we want. Proactive people anticipate. Reactive people respond and react. They knee jerk. They knee jerk. I spent many years feeling sad about holidays because I felt like my holidays were scattered. I felt like our family was all over the place. I felt like that some of the places that we traditionally went to celebrate Thanksgiving or Christmas, I felt like that those gatherings weren't happy. They weren't satisfying. They weren't bringing us joy, and yet we kept doing it over and over and over. It was a habit. I was reacting to an invitation. And then my husband and I sat down and really talked it through. How can we be proactive about making sure that our holidays were meaningful? That they weren't just responding to invitations, that we were being intentional about how we wanted our holiday season to look, to feel, and to be for us and our children. See the difference to that? The 15 people who invite you to functions during the holidays, they don't know that 14 other people have invited you. In many cases, they're being kind. It's not that the whole world is out to get you and ruin your holiday season. They certainly weren't doing that for me, for us. But at some point, we had to look at what they even meant as generous and say to ourselves, are we going to just react and automatically go? Or are we going to choose to proactively choose how we're going to spend our time, with whom we are going to spend it? What are we looking to get? The difference between being proactive and reactive. All right, so let's hear it, you guys. What's being stirred up for you? Are you by nature more reactive than proactive, or are you the person who tends to go out there and drop the bomb and wait and see what happens? Maybe you're just wired to be proactive, and some people are. Absolutely. I'm not wired to be proactive. I'm wired to wait and consider and watch and wait for things, and I'm careful. Those are all great qualities. But if I want to see positive change in my life, I cannot wait for it to show up. And neither can you. So let's hear it. What's being stirred up for you? Where are you maybe waiting for something to change? And you could choose to be proactive about making the change you want to see. Because if you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you always got. We can't be surprised. Developing that habit, that consistent habit of being proactive toward what we want instead of reactive, waiting to respond, is going to help us to get where we need to be, or it's at least going to position us to be in a better place to get what we want. Talked about the change I wanted to see happen at work. I was getting so restless. I wasn't using my gifts and my talents. And I had tried to convince myself that that's the way I wanted to live my life, and it was not true. And so I finally made the decision to be proactive about my future within that organization. I decided that I was not going to be able to come in every day and do something that required no skill and no ability and no thought. It was worthy work. It was meaningful work, but it wasn't the work I was built for. And when I made the decision to start pursuing the work I was built for, amazing things started to happen. Hi, Carol. I'm glad you're here with us. So Mary says, my husband and I did all the traveling on holidays until one year we decided not to do it anymore. And we had our own holiday at home. It was the best decision ever. And Mary, you hit something on the head here. Not everybody liked it. I'll bet they didn't. And this is a hurdle for those of us who are choosing to be proactive in our life. Because when we are being proactive, it often means we are taking action that somebody somewhere isn't happy about. Maybe it's our parents, maybe it's our children. And yet, like Mary said, best decision ever. Being proactive about doing what you need to do to have the life you know you want, to get toward where you want to be, is powerful. But it doesn't mean that everybody's happy. Are you a people pleaser? Anybody going to raise their hand? Or do you have this, have you been labeled as a people pleaser? Have you labeled yourself as a people pleaser? People pleasers are generally reactive. I'm going to do a thing and then I'm going to wait and see, did that person approve of it? Is everybody happy with it? Should I make a different decision? It's so tentative. It's always waiting for the reaction. Here's the reality, you guys. There is no end to the list of people who will give you their opinion about what you are doing. You've met hundreds of them. There are thousands. There are people that you would never dream have strong opinions about you, what you should or should not be doing with your life. You will never run out of people to react to if that's the life you choose. I'm here to tell you that this habit, the habit of being proactive, making the decision and taking the action toward what you know you want, is a habit that will serve you well for the rest of your life, and it will create a pathway for you toward it. That proactive decision making will actually create the life you want. Reacting creates a mishmash of the life everybody else wants. Carol says this: from the day Kelsey was born, we made a decision we were going to be home on all holidays, and we never changed. Yeah, interesting, Carol. That's really interesting that when you had your child, you decided right up front what you wanted it to look like. You were proactive about how you wanted those days to look. Amazing. That is powerful and life-changing. And it also probably made things easier. So this is something, in fact, I'm sure it made things easier because deciding at the beginning and letting people know and then they adjust is one thing. Doing it away for 15 years and then deciding midstream that you want to change raises a whole lot of different hackles, right? So take a page out of Carol's book and at the beginning, make some proactive decisions about what you want your life to be like. When you start a new job, when you have a new child, at these natural beginnings in our life, we can decide, what do we want this to look like? When my husband and I got married, we took a vow and we vowed to be married for the rest of our lives. And we took that very seriously, very seriously. And I'm excited about this coming, I think it's this February that we'll celebrate 40 years, I think. Yeah, so 40 years of marriage. So we took it seriously and we still do. But one thing that we decided that we would never do was carelessly talk about divorce. We just wouldn't tease about it. We wouldn't make jokes about it. We wouldn't joke about like, oh, you know what? I'll just leave you then. No joking. We were proactive in setting that boundary so that we never made any jokes about it. And we certainly didn't ever throw it around in anger. That was not something we wanted to even play with. We were proactive about putting that boundary in place. And 40 years later, that's never been a topic that we've discussed. We have found, with God's grace, that we have been able to work through our issues. How do you want your life to play out? What boundaries do you want to set proactively at the beginning of something that you do? When you set those boundaries, when you're proactive at the beginning, it makes things simpler later. And we will actually explore that more in one of the other 7 habits. Anybody else want to share? It's interesting that the holidays are one of those areas that really resonates. It certainly resonates with me, but it resonates with a lot of people when it comes to being proactive. How can I create the kind of a holiday that when I get to January, I'm not weeping with exhaustion and thousands of dollars in debt? Now's the time. Being proactive about that. Waiting to be in the middle of it and reacting to every advertisement, every Amazon Prime deal that comes into your mailbox, responding to every invitation, you're going to be exhausted. You're right. You're going to be broke. You're going to be at your wit's end, and you will have not gotten what you wanted. Philip says this, that's good. He said, we did that for 30 years, not speaking negative to one another, right? You were proactive in your approach to how you wanted your marriage to be, Philip. And it paid off because you were proactive about it. You didn't wait for circumstances to dictate to you how you would respond. You chose before. Love the promise to stay married too. Yes. Yes, I think everybody who gets married starts with that, almost everybody. And I know it doesn't always work. I'm not trying to act like this, that it makes things simple. And I'm certainly not trying to insinuate that if it didn't go that way for you, that I don't know your circumstance. But as an example of how important it is to identify proactively what we're going to protect and how we're going to behave, it makes a difference. Yeah, Carol says we promise to take care of our parents. These decisions that we proactively make early make it easy to know what we're supposed to do later, right? So when we're faced with the decisions, the fact that we have decided proactively, this is how I'm going to respond. I'm going to make sure that my parents are taken care of. The decision's made. Now, when circumstances arise, Carol, right? You were able to look at that commitment and say, well, this is what we committed. What satisfies that? It speaks to your values. So how about your work? How are you being proactive within your workplace so that you can have the environment you want, that you can create the results that you know are going to help you to be able to do your best? If you are waiting for your boss, who's a crab, who doesn't know what they're doing, who doesn't have any leadership skills, if you're waiting for them to wake up one morning and all of a sudden be a great boss, you will be waiting a long time. So, what can you do when you're in a situation where somebody else seems to be in charge? Let's throw it out there. Hashtag bring the honor. Being proactive about how we show up changes things. I had to change my attitude from, I'm speaking now from when I was languishing at the Postal Service, not being my best, not acting with integrity, not doing my best, not showing up consistently. I had to proactively change my behavior before anybody would give me an opportunity to do something else that was in my wheelhouse. I had to proactively change how I showed up, what I did. I had to choose the path of integrity. When I did that, things started to happen because I had proactively decided. I didn't wait until somebody offered me an opportunity to all of a sudden become consistent in my attendance. I had to become consistent in my attendance in order for them to give me the opportunity. Can you elaborate on a statement that you made earlier, Laura says, using the term mishmash being the end result? So if I know what kind of a life I want, if you know what kind of a life you want, Laura, and so I'm going to use myself as an example. I know that I want a life that is peaceful. I want a life that reflects godly character. I want a life that allows me to show love to people. I want a life where I am safe. All of those things, I can make proactive choices where I want to go, who I want to spend my time with, who I want to surround myself with, what I want to do at family events, where, all of that. If I'm deciding it based on my values, there's just real clarity there, right? These are the things I value, and I make my decisions based on that. And then I proactively do things that contribute to that in my life. I proactively clear my slate so that I can spend family time with my family once a month. It's on my calendar. I made a space for it. I'm proactive about that. So I've got things that I proactively do that are in alignment with my values. I'm doing the decision making and I'm taking the actions. There's clarity there. When I am reactive, my mom has priorities, and some of them perhaps involve me being at every family function. And so I try to do all that, right? And I sacrifice some of mine. I'm not being proactive anymore. I'm being reactive. This is what my mom wants. I'm going to do what my mom wants. But my boss also wants a list of things. Every person in my life, they have an agenda too for their lives. And some of them are very clear on it. Some of them they're wanting to climb the corporate ladder. So they want me to be there and they want to use all of my good ideas and act like they were theirs in meetings. That's their agenda. And if I react to them, now my clarity it's a mishmash. I'm not taking actions that are consistent with my values. I am reacting to all of these other people and their values. If I'm reacting to 15 people, I am living 15 people's priorities and none of my own. It's a mishmash. I'm not getting anywhere. They might be getting somewhere because they're consistently acting on their priorities, but I'm not because I'm reacting to theirs. If I'm reacting to one person's, there might be some clarity there. I'm not saying it's a great thing, but at least there'd be clarity. But often we're reacting to the pressures and the expectations of many people. And that's just, let's go here for a second. Let's go here for a second. Oh, let's go there. Oh, look, it's a squirrel. Oh, look, I think I do this. Oh, this is important now. And before we know it, we're just floundering. It's a mishmash. We have no clarity. I don't know if that makes sense, but when we are taking directions from 15 different people, reacting to their expectations and their demands, we are never going to get anywhere in a direction for any length of time because our route is being taken away. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Anybody else have any questions about this idea of being proactive? It is a powerful habit. When I became proactive about what I wanted in my personal life and took actions to get it, I wanted more friendships. Years ago, I was a kid and I showed up for a bowling class and I didn't know anybody. And my mom had dropped me off at the door. That was back in the day, you guys. No helicopter parenting. You know, I'm like 8 years old. My mom drops me off at the bowling alley. I'll be back in 2 hours. I'm like, bye, mom. And for whatever reason, I went in and I wasn't proactive. I was reactive. I was overwhelmed. I wanted somebody to talk to me. Nobody did. And I spent the next 6 weeks of this bowling class suffering, never being proactive about finding a friend. I kept waiting for somebody to find me and they never did. And sometimes we get to be adults and we're waiting for somebody to find us and they never find us. But you have an alternative. If you want friends, you can proactively get some. The Bible says it's the best advice ever. If you want friends, you got to show yourself as a friend. If you want a friend, you got to show up as a friend. He who wants a friend should show himself friendly. Proactive. There's so much that we want in our life, but we wait for it instead of taking an action that will help us get it. All right. So Carol says this, you're the one to teach me about being aware of time. We're going to talk a lot about time in the Livestream Leadership Program coming up. And for those of you who are interested in priorities and want to understand how to set priorities and how priorities actually are the compass or it's not really the compass, but it sets the course of our life. If you're interested in that, shoot me a message because this is a great time to jump into the Livestream Leadership Program. We are exploring priorities. They're powerful and some mind-blowing stuff in there that I never knew. And when I share it with people, it's really life-changing. So if that's resonating with you, that you would like to really understand priorities, now's a great time to consider jumping in. Just shoot me a Facebook message. We can talk. All right. So Carol says this. She said, you're the one to teach me about being aware of time. When you invite people over, you put a start and a stop time. Yes. Last time I was there, I looked at my watch and said to myself, it's time to get my coat and respect Shannon, and hugged you and said thank you and got in my car. It was a great teaching. I am starting to do that now. It was a wonderful teaching. I hope I'm writing it down right. I think you are, Carol. I so appreciate your proactiveness. This is just one example. Carol, it's funny that you picked that because I get, how do I start? How do I say this? I'm one of those people that I love having people over, but I can't do it for 8 hours. I've only got this much energy. And so I found that I was resisting inviting people or having events because I was afraid that people were just going to stay forever. And I was reacting to their desire. Maybe they love it, and it's okay if they do, but I was the one who was responding to them. So this is what I discovered, that if I tell people our party starts at 1 and it ends at 4, we start wrapping up and people are they're on their way. It's good. It's okay. Being proactive about setting that start and end time. And now it frees me up. It's a habit that I've developed over time that has given me so much joy because I can open my heart more. I can open my head more. I can be more generous to people with my time. I can meet them for lunch and I can tell them, you know what, I'm going to be there from 12. I'm going to have to leave at 1:30. And everybody's fine. It's wonderful. So I'm glad that you found that beneficial, Carol. I'm glad that you found that beneficial, and I'm glad that you've been using it. And it certainly helps me to be able to proactively have more people come into my world because I proactively set the expectation of when something's going to end. All right. Sarah says this completely makes sense. I am glad that it's resonating, Sarah. Philip says I'm listening and learning. That's the best way, Philip. Listen and learn. I'm curious for all of us how you apply it. So if that's something you'd love to share when you apply a principle in Sunday Night Live, pop it in here. Carol, I appreciate that you shared how you've applied some things that you've learned through what we've talked about here. So yeah, anybody who's applying what you're learning and want to share those results, we'd love to hear it. And it's time for us to wrap up because I try to keep this at around a half hour. I've squeezed over a little bit, you guys. It's 7:37, but I appreciate you hanging with me. With that, I am going to wish you well. Habit 1 is be proactive. Look around your life. This is your action step this week, you guys. Look at your life and find that area where you've been waiting for something to be different and take a step in the direction that you want it to go and see what happens. Awesome. With that, I wish you all the best. God bless you. I love you, and we will talk again soon. Bye.